"Meghan, thank you for being here." She nodded once. "Thank you for having me." It sounded cordial, almost warm, but there was no smile in her eyes. Michael leaned in slightly. "You've been in the public eye for years now. Actress, duchess, mother, advocate. A lot has been said about you. Today, I want to hear directly from you." Meghan tilted her head a fraction. That would be refreshing. The words were polite, the tone was not. Michael let it pass. "You've described this chapter of your life as one focused on healing and independence." He continued, "What does a normal morning look like for you now?" It was a soft opener, intentionally human. Meghan exhaled slowly. "I don't really think in terms of normal," she said. "That word tends to minimize experiences that are anything but." Michael nodded. "Fair enough. What does your morning look like then?" She hesitated just long enough to register. "Busy," she said. "Like any parent, like any woman balancing multiple responsibilities. I don't think my routine needs to be romanticized." Michael smiled lightly. "I wasn't trying to romanticize it. Just give people a sense of context." Meghan finished for him. "Yes, context is important, but it's also often misused." The temperature in the room shifted slightly. Michael adjusted smoothly. "You've talked before about how narratives get shaped around you. Do you feel that's still happening now?" Meghan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Constantly." "In what way?" Michael asked. "In the way questions are framed," she replied. "In assumptions that come preloaded. In the idea that I owe explanations for choices that were necessary for my well-being." Michael nodded, choosing his words carefully. "But sitting here today is a choice to explain." Meghan's eyes locked onto his. "I'm here to speak," she said calmly, "not to defend myself." A subtle line had been drawn. Michael didn't challenge it yet, understood. Still, people watching are curious. Some feel inspired by your decisions, others feel confused by them. "Confusion," Meghan said coolly, "often comes from people refusing to let go of outdated expectations." Michael paused, such as she leaned back slightly. "That I should be quieter, grateful, accommodating." Michael absorbed that. "Do you think any of that criticism comes from inconsistency in how your story has been told over time?" The room went still. Meghan's expression hardened, not angry, but alert. "Inconsistency," she repeated. "Or growth?" Michael met her gaze. "That's what I'm asking." A silent stretch between them, not awkward, charged. "Growth doesn't come with a timeline," Meghan said finally. "And it certainly doesn't come with a requirement to explain every evolution to strangers." Michael nodded, but his tone firmed just slightly. "True, but when your story influences millions, people will ask questions." Meghan's lips pressed together. "Influence doesn't mean obligation." Michael sat back, recognizing the resistance. "All right," he said evenly. "Let's talk about partnership then. About Harry? About how the two of you navigate." "I'm going to stop you there," Meghan said, cutting in. Michael froze only for a fraction of a second. "I don't see why my husband is always the next stop in these conversations," she continued. "I'm here as an individual." Michael remained calm. "Of course, but your lives are connected publicly. Public interest doesn't grant access," she replied sharply. "Tea?" The warmth of the studio felt thinner now. Michael nodded once, slowly. "I hear you." But for the first time since the interview began, the smile didn't return. The cameras kept rolling, and somewhere between composure and confrontation, the interview quietly crossed its first invisible line. This was only the beginning. When the brief pause ended, the studio lights seemed just a touch brighter. Michael Strahan adjusted slightly in his chair. Not a retreat, not an advance, just enough to signal that the conversation was moving forward, whether the resistance liked it or not. "All right," he said evenly. "Let's stay with you." Meghan's shoulders relaxed a fraction, but her eyes remained guarded. "You've spoken often about reclaiming your voice," Michael continued. "About stepping away from structures that felt restrictive. Some people watching admire that. Others wonder why they weren't consulted." Meghan interjected coolly. Michael didn't smile. "Why, the message sometimes sounds like blame." The word landed softly but unmistakably. Meghan's brow tightened. "Blame implies wrongdoing. I've never accused people for asking questions. I've criticized systems that thrive on silence." Michael nodded. "Yet many people hear resentment." "Because women expressing boundaries are always labeled resentful," Meghan replied, "especially when they don't soften the edges for comfort." Michael leaned forward slightly. "Do you think there's a difference between setting boundaries and shutting down dialogue?" For the first time, Meghan didn't answer immediately, her fingers interlaced more tightly in her lap. I think dialogue, she said slowly, requires mutual respect. Michael held her gaze. And does respect include allowing uncomfortable questions? Meghan's eyes flashed. Uncomfortable for whom? For you, Michael said calmly. Or for the people watching who are trying to understand. That assumes confusion, she replied, when often what people feel is disappointment that I didn't fulfill a role they imagined for me. Michael exhaled quietly. Some would say the role was transparency. Meghan's posture stiffened. Transparency doesn't mean access, she said sharply. It doesn't mean narrating trauma on demand. Michael didn't push back. Instead, he pivoted. You've spoken about mental health advocacy, he said, about increasing openness. How do you reconcile that with resisting questions about your own experience? The air changed. That question was sharper than the others. Meghan's jaw tightened. Advocacy isn't confession, she said. I don't know my pain as proof of credibility. Michael nodded slowly. Understood. But when your advocacy is built around personal testimony, I never said it was built on that. She cut in. That's your framing. Michael paused, then said, the framing many people have taken from your interviews. Her lips pressed into a thin line. So now I'm responsible for other people's interpretations, she asked. Is that the standard? Michael didn't flinch. It's the reality of influence. A beat of silence. Meghan shifted in her chair, crossing her arms, not defensively, but decisively. I think what's happening here, she said coolly, is that you're trying to reconcile two versions of me. One that's digestible and one that's real. Michael met her eyes. And I think viewers are trying to understand which one they're hearing. The words were careful but firm. Meghan gave a short, humorless laugh. That's not my problem. Michael's expression changed, not angry, not offended, just more serious. It becomes your problem, he said quietly, when you ask people to listen. Meghan leaned forward now just slightly. I'm not asking, I'm speaking. The tension thickened. Michael folded his hands. Let's talk about America, he said. About building a new life here. Do you feel welcomed? Meghan tilted her head. That depends on who you ask. You, Michael replied. I feel scrutinized, she said. I feel misunderstood. And frankly, I feel judged for not performing gratitude. Michael raised an eyebrow. Gratitude for what? For being allowed to leave, she said. For being rescued. For being acceptable. Michael's voice stayed calm. Some people would say gratitude isn't about permission, it's about acknowledgement. She shook her head. Acknowledgement easily becomes expectation. Michael nodded once. Is there anything you acknowledge you could have handled differently? The question hung there. Meghan stared at him. The practiced calm was slipping now, not visibly but internally. You could feel it. No, she said, because survival doesn't come with apologies. Michael took a breath. What about impact? Meghan's eyes narrowed. Impact on whom? On families, he said. On institutions, on people who feel hurt by how you speak about them. Meghan's tone cooled. Their feelings are not my responsibility. Michael's voice lowered. That's a powerful stance. It's a necessary one, she replied. Another pause. The room felt smaller. Michael nodded slowly, as if accepting a truth he didn't fully agree with. All right, he said. Then let me ask you this. Meghan waited. What do you hope people take away from interviews like this? Her answer came quickly, too quickly. That I won't be boxed in. Michael watched her carefully. Anything else? She hesitated just a fraction. That I'm done explaining myself. Michael sat back. That may be, he said, but conversations don't end just because one person decides they're finished. Meghan's eyes hardened. Are you suggesting I should keep talking when I don't want to? I'm suggesting, Michael replied evenly, that walking away from questions doesn't make them disappear. For the first time, Meghan looked genuinely irritated. You're pushing, she said. Michael didn't deny it. I'm doing my job. Silence stretched again. The blue box on the table remained untouched. The cameras rolled, and both of them now understood something. Clearly, this was no longer a friendly one-on-one. It was a test of control, and neither was willing to yield. The silence after Michael's last sentence lingered longer than television ever liked. Meghan shifted in her seat, uncrossing and recrossing her legs with careful precision, as if reclaiming space. Her expression remained composed, but the calm had sharpened into something brittle. Michael broke the pause. Let me be very clear, he said evenly. I'm not here to corner you. I'm here to understand the gap between what you say you want, understanding, and how these conversations often end. Meghan's lips tightened. They end because people refuse to hear what doesn't fit their narrative. Michael nodded. Sometimes. And sometimes they end because questions go unanswered. Her eyes lifted. I've answered plenty. Not this one, he replied gently. Why does disagreement feel like an attack? The question was simple. The effect was not. Meghan inhaled, slow and deliberate. Because disagreement is rarely neutral, she said. It's usually loaded with judgment. Michael leaned forward slightly. And do you think your responses ever load the room too? She stared at him. Are you saying I provoke this? I'm asking, he said, whether tone matters as much as truth. A flicker crossed her face, annoyance quickly masked. Tone policing is a distraction, she said. It's a way to avoid substance. Michael's voice stayed calm. So was refusing to engage. Meghan's gaze hardened. You're framing me as evasive. I'm describing what viewers see, he replied, her shoulders stiffened. Viewers don't see the full context. They see this, Michael said quietly, gesturing, not at her but at the moment. The studio felt tighter now, as if the walls had moved closer. All right, Meghan said, her voice cool. Let's talk substance, Michael nodded. You've asked about impact, she continued. About institutions, families, feelings, but no one asks about the cost of staying silent, about the cost of compliance. Michael listened. Fair point. So why, she pressed, is the burden always on the person who leaves to explain themselves? Michael paused. Because leaving publicly creates questions publicly. Meghan shook her head. That's not accountability, that's spectacle. Michael didn't disagree outright. It can be both. She leaned back. And you're comfortable participating in that? Michael met her eyes. I'm comfortable asking questions respectfully. Meghan's voice cooled further. Respect would mean knowing when to stop. Michael took a breath. Respect also means not shutting down the conversation when it turns uncomfortable. A beat. Meghan's jaw tightened. You keep saying conversation as if this is equal ground. It is, Michael replied. She laughed softly without humor. You're the one with the platform. Michael nodded. And you're the one who chose to sit here. That landed. Meghan's posture changed. Not dramatic, but decisive. She leaned forward now, elbows near her knees, eyes locked onto his. I sat here to speak on my terms, she said, not to be analyzed. Michael's tone lowered. Interviews involve analysis, not interrogation, she snapped. Michael didn't raise his voice. No one's interrogating you. It feels like it, she said sharply. Michael held steady. Feelings aren't always indicators of intent. Her eyes flashed. So now you're dismissing how this feels. I'm contextualizing it. He said the tension crossed another line. Subtle but real. Meghan straightened, folding her arms. I think what's happening, she said slowly, is that you're more interested in pushing than listening. Michael shook his head slightly. I've been listening. What I'm not doing is retreating. Her expression cooled into something steely. Then maybe you're not the right person for this conversation. Michael didn't blink. Or maybe it's the right conversation at the wrong moment. Meghan scoffed. That's convenient. Michael glanced briefly at the blue box on the table, untouched, then back to her. One last area, he said. Motherhood. She stiffened instantly. No. Michael raised a hand, not defensively, but to pause. Just in terms of privacy. I've been clear, she said. My children are not topics. Understood, he replied. But the tension between privacy and public advocacy. No, Meghan cut in, voice firm now. You don't get to repackage that boundary. Michael's expression finally hardened, not angry, but resolute. Then tell me where the line is. I just did. Michael nodded once. All right. He sat back, giving space but not yielding the floor. Meghan, he said quietly, do you think it's possible that these interviews keep ending this way because you're fighting the room instead of the questions? The air went still. For the first time, Meghan looked truly offended. That's insulting, she said. It's honest, Michael replied. Her voice dropped icy. You're crossing a line. Michael's tone stayed level. I'm standing on it. A long silence followed. Meghan looked down, then back up. Her calm was gone now, replaced by something colder, more brittle. I think we're done, she said. Michael held her gaze. We're almost finished. No, she replied. I'm finished. She shifted forward, hands pressing against the armrests, preparing to stand. Michael spoke one last time, quietly but firmly. Walking away won't stop the questions. Meghan's eyes locked onto his. Neither will staying, she said, and in that moment everyone in the studio knew. The break was no longer theoretical, it was imminent. For a moment no one moved. Meghan remained half leaning forward in her chair, hands gripping the armrests, her body already signaling departure. Michael Strahan sat opposite her, still composed, his